welcome to the December class for Sweet Sentiment. This class is adorable, and so I can't wait to get started. We are going to be coloring this sweet little mouse and his little Santa hat, and then a couple of the gifts and the Christmas tree, just so you have an idea. The cat portion of this class, which is color all the things, is the background portion, and that is a separate class. So if you're interested in the background portion, just hop on over to sweetsentiment.us and check out the cat portion of this class. But for now, we're going to focus on the sweet little mouse, his little gifts, and his Christmas tree. So first of all, I stamped him. This is the stamp set that you get with your kit. And I've stamped him and his tree and all of his little accessories in Memento Tuxedo Black. I've stamped them all on Sweet Sentiment coloring paper, and so here they are. If you notice, in my card, I have the little mouse and the little tree here. So I've just stamped them kind of anywhere on an A2 size piece of paper. So this is a quarter sheet. And then on a separate piece of paper, I've stamped the gifts and the little Santa hat, because we're going to be coloring those separately and fussy cutting them so that we can pop them out of the card. So first things first, I say we start with the tree. So let's get started with the little tree. I'm going to start with the tree trunk. And for that tree trunk, I'm going to use E25, E23, and E33. So I'm going to start with E25, which is my darkest color. And I'm going to hold it sort of a little bit further back on the barrel. I don't need as much control. And I'm just going to come in with like some soft little marks to create texture in that tree trunk. So just some little vertical. I'm going to come in with a shadow of the star and just do some little brush strokes here. Nothing too wild. And then everywhere where the greenery would start on the tree or where the branches break off of one another, I'm going to make it a little bit darker so that there's shadow there. Just like this. Okay, so again, nothing real earth-shattering. Let's zoom in on this for you, so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to come down here and on the end of this branch. Okay, just a little bit of texture, nothing too major. Now I'm going to take my E23 and I'm going to essentially do the same thing, but I'm going to kind of go down the sides of the trunk. The reason is I want this trunk to look like it's round. So if I shadow both sides, like this pin, if I shadow this side and this side, see how both of those sides are in shadow, but the light is on the top, so you know that it's round. We're doing the same thing with this little tree. It's a cute little scraggly Christmas tree. Okay. Now my last marker that I'm going to use is E33, and I'm just going to go right up the middle of this little tree. All of the little branches, and fill in any white spots that I have left. Okay. That wasn't so hard now, was it? Now I'm going to do the tree stand. So with my tree stand, I'm going to start with the E33. I want it to be a different shade than the tree. So if you only have those 3 markers, that's absolutely fine. You can recycle those 3 markers and use them on the tree stand as well. I want my tree stand to be a little bit lighter than the tree. So I'm going to use E33. I'm going to use E53. And I'm going to use E50. This class is going to go a little bit faster because we're all making Christmas cards and we're all super busy, and so we want everything to go kind of quickly. So I'm going to make this class go a tiny bit faster, just so that you can get back to baking those Christmas cookies, or so you can hurry up and get this finished and pop it in the mail for somebody who you need to send a Christmas card to. So with the same thing like I did with the tree, I'm just adding these little brush strokes and going with the grain of the wood. I want to make texture in this little board, in this wood. So I'm kind of just creating that texture all on my own. I'm going to go up from the bottom with little brush strokes and then the side here. Okay, real simple, real quick. Don't give it too much thought. The more thought you give it, the harder it will be to make that happen. So again, little brush strokes. Follow what the grain of the wood would be. Little brush strokes. And this doesn't matter if you go up into that tree area. The green is going to be darker than this brown, so you'll color right over the top of it. Now I'm going to take this E50 and I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of this. So again, I wanted this to be a little bit lighter than the trunk, so I'm kind of making it look like pieces of pine. And there we go. Again, not too much hassle, not too much muss, too much fuss, any of that stuff. So our tree itself, for the greenery, I'm going to use YG97. I'm going to use G19. And I'm going to use G24. So as you can tell by looking at the caps, these are very, very, very different greens. However, I still have a shadow, a midtone, and a highlight. So I'm adding these contrasts for a reason. I want this tree to have a lot of bang for my buck because there's not a lot of greenery on it. So I'm using like a yellow green, I'm using like a true kind of Crayola green, and then I'm using like a softer like sage green. So I'm hoping that these all mix together and create a nice variant of green for our Christmas tree. So YG97 is to begin with, and I'm going to go in the middle of these. And I'm just going to follow those little pine needles out. Go in the middle and follow those little pine needles out. Just little brush strokes. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to connect. This is pine needles. So I don't know about you, but if you've ever been in the woods and seen a pine tree, all the pine needles are different colors and different sizes. They're not very uniform at all. That's what we're going for. Okay. So again, very simple, very quick. Our G19, same thing, just essentially going to come out from the middle. With this bright Crayola green. Creating that texture. Notice I'm just doing these quick little brush strokes. I really don't want them to be absolutely perfect, so I'm trying to go kind of fast so that I don't think about it too much. Because if I think about it too much, then they're gonna be way more uniform than I want them to be. This is that G24. This is that soft sage green color, and I'm gonna extend these past what the artist has drawn. And this is what kind of gives it that finishing touch. Don't extend them too far past, but just enough to go past those black lines. There we go. We have a cute little fuzzy Christmas tree. Okay. So next, I think we're going to color the star. So I am going to pull out my Y13, my Y06, and my Y000. Now, if you don't have these, you can choose literally any Ys. The Copic Ys don't have a ton of variation in them. So I'll show you what I'm going to do with them, and then you can decide what it is you want to do. So not from the points of the stars, but from the inside, I'm going to take this Y13 and I'm going to connect these. This is to create a little bit of texture in your star. So this is like one of those tree topper stars that you like buy at Target or Walmart or something like that. And it's, you know, got that, it has peaks and valleys. That's what I'm looking for. So then I'm going to take my Y06. I'm going to come out from the middle. Just some little brush strokes. And then I'm going to take my Y000 and I'm going to start at the edge and move my way towards the center. The reason is I don't want to take all of this dark yellow and pull it out toward the edges, or everything that I'm working for to try to get some variation in these yellows will be for naught, and it'll drag all that darker color out towards the edge. So it just creates a little subtlety to your star. Makes it super cute. Okay, now we're going to move on to this ornament. I have 3 reds for my ornament. I have R59, I have R29, and I have R14. Okay, so I'm going to start with my R59. There we go. And I'm going to kind of turn my paper so that my wrist is more comfortable. And I'm going to start down here, and I'm just going to kind of trace the shape of this bauble here. Bulb or Christmas ball or ornament or whatever you want to call it. I'm also going to trace underneath where the little stem of it comes out. Now I'm going to move to my R29. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do the same thing. And I'm going to pull this color back towards the edge. Same thing up here. And then I'm going to take this red and I'm going to do just the tiniest little outline so that we can create a highlight. Okay. Then I have my R14. And I'm going to push this color towards the edge, and I'm going to pull this color just like I did before. Pull it down. And now you see I'm left with this little white spot. So what I'm going to do with that white spot, I'm going to wait for the rest of this to dry, and then I'm just going to take one quick little swipe over it. So it's still lighter than the other part. Look at that cute little tree. Now you could use this stamp alone on a Christmas card and it would be so cute, but we're in it for the mouse, right? We're gonna be here to color this mouse. So let's get to coloring that little mouse. So I'm gonna pull out my W markers to color this mouse. So I have W6, I have W4, I have, W2, and I have W0. And then I always have handy my colorless blender. In this case, the colorless blender acts as one of my markers, okay? If you don't have these markers, you can use your N's, your T's, your C's, anything like that. And if you don't have the evens, use the odds. You're gonna have nearly the same outcome, okay? So I'm gonna start with my W6. And with my W6, I'm going to come in and I'm going to put shadows everywhere I think there should be shadows. So where his ear connects to his head, I'm going to draw in some little shadows here, and I'm just using little brush strokes, just like that. Same thing on this ear. We're going to add some little shadows, just like that. Now I'm going to come in under his chin, and leave some shadows from his head onto his chest. Where his arm comes out from behind his back because he's hiding his gift. Where his arm comes out behind this little gift that he's holding forward. Now his little hand is probably that same pink color, so we're going to not color his little hand. Same with his little feet, so I'm actually going to come up here to leave the shadow. And then we're going to shadow downwards from where his leg connects to his body. Same on this side. Then where his little tummy rounds under, I'm going to go ahead and leave some shadow there. I'm also going to leave a little bit of shadow behind this tuft of hair. I'm going to put some shadow around where these teeth stick out. Silly little mouse. And along his lip here. Not too much, just a little bit. And then underneath his little nose. Okay. I'm also going to come up onto his neck just a little bit. And again, we're moving pretty fast here, so if you need to pause or stop or go get a glass of wine and come back or a cup of coffee, you can feel free to do that. So we have the W4. We're going to do the same thing. W4, we're just going to elongate those shadows. And I'm using a lot more ink. Notice I'm kind of using the side of my nib now instead of the brush point. The reason is because I want to smooth all of this shadow out. So I'm working on kind of smoothing it out, saturating my paper, creating a nice smooth transition between these two colors. And you just go around every spot where we just laid that shadow. And add this color. Not so hard, right? There we go. Okay. Now I have my W2. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go all the way around his face. And I'm going to do that kind of a couple of times because I want these colors to really marry together. I'm also going to go over his eyes and around his little nose because now I'm adding some dimension to his face. His eyes will sink back further than his little cheeks will stick out. So that's why we're adding a little bit of dimension there. Okay, I'm going to come down to his body. Same thing. I'm going to go all the way around. And I'm going to go all the way around a couple of times because like I said, I want these colors to really marry together. I want them to blend super well. I want them to be nice, soft transitions. But again, he's a little mouse, so his fur is not going to be absolutely perfect. Okay, just like that. Now I have my W0. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to color in his little cheeks. I'm going to color in his little head. I'm going to use kind of a circular motion because again, I want to marry these colors together. I want them to blend super well. And I'm leaving a white spot in the middle of his forehead. I'll show you what we do with that later. Okay. Same thing on his belly. I'm using a little bit of circle blending. I'm leaving a little white spot in the center of his belly because that's where it sticks out the furthest. So we're going to have that be in highlight. Okay. Then I have my colorless blender. And where I left this white spot, I'm going to go ahead and circle blend across his forehead, across his cheeks, and across his belly. Notice I'm using the side of my marker here so that I get the maximum coverage amount for that. Now I will tell you, if you're wondering about saturation and how much you've saturated this, you can see his whole body on the back of my cardstock. That's what you want. If you can't tell what you're coloring by looking at the back of your cardstock, you're not doing it right. So make sure that you definitely saturate that so that you have those nice smooth transitions. Now we're going to color his ears and his nose, his tail, his little paws. So I have this color blend. This is RV95, RV11, and R00. So this is super dark, this is super pink, and this is more reddish, brownish color. So we're using them to kind of layer on top of each other and even each other out. So we're going to take this RV95 first, and I'm going to come up from the bottom of his ears. And I'm just going to use that same paintbrush motion because I don't want these to all end in the same spot. I don't want them to be like hair, but I also don't want them to end in the same spot because we want to blend them out. I'm going to do the same thing over here in this ear. And if you're better at making these brush strokes towards your body, by all means, turn your paper so that your wrist is comfortable. And make these brush strokes towards your body. Okay, I'm also going to go ahead and color the bottom of his nose, just like that little V shape. And then I'm going to color where his little paws would be in shadow. So along the bottom of that one, along the bottom of his little toes, just like that. I'm also going to color on his tail. So we're going to come out from his little bum. And then you see where the artist has drawn these lines? We're just going to follow those lines. Using little brush strokes of our own. And that'll help you know where to shadow those. Okay. Now we're going to use this RV11. We're going to come out, we're going to overlap that RV95, and we're going to come out towards this highlight. On both ears. Okay. Same thing on his nose. I'm just going to trace that little V shape. Same thing on his paws. I picked this image because it is a much more quick coloring image, and I know how busy we all are this time of year. So I thought this would be a great class and a great image for all of us busies who really, really need to make a Christmas card, but need to make it quick. A very quick and meaningful Christmas card. All right, so we have this R00. Now I'm going to start at the outside and bring this back. Again, the reason being I don't want to pull that darker pink towards the outside and make it muddy. Just like that. So I'm starting at the outside and pulling towards his head. Oops, I forgot his little nose. And I'm going to go in and color in this tail. I'm kind of overlapping everything that I've done with this because this is such a different color than the other colors. I want to use this as an overlay for those colors. Just like that. Now you can see I made an oops and colored outside the line. So I'm going to take my colorless blender and I'm just going to push that back towards his tail. There we go. Fixed it. Now, his teeth are not going to be perfectly white. So I like to take my W0 and kind of go along the top where his lip would leave a shadow. and then take my my 0 colorless blender and push that back. So his teeth aren't like perfectly white. Okay, so now we're going to color his little gifts that he's holding. And I like to kind of color them opposite so I get some bang for my buck here. So I'm going to use the same markers, but one of them is going to be for the wrapping paper and one of them is going to be for the bow. So let's start with our red. I have my R59 again. There we go. And I'm going to color this little package bright red. So I'm going to start by leaving a shadow down by his paw and then up the side of that gift. And I'm going to go up the corner of the box, up the ribbon. Then on this box, what I'm going to do is this part is the ribbon. So I'm going to leave a shadow from his head, and then I'm going to color in this bow, leaving a shadow where the knot is, and then a shadow where that loop is, and then a shadow coming out from the tail end there. Now my R29, same thing, I'm going to push or pull this dark red back into the shadow so I have room for my highlight. Just like this. Everywhere where I laid that dark red shadow, I'm going to add this R29 to highlight. Then I have my R14, and I'm going to go from the highlight back towards those darker colors. Otherwise, I'll just drag those darker colors out and I won't have any highlight at all. From my highlight back towards those darker colors. All right, so that was easy. Now we're gonna grab, I have my G19, and then I'm grabbing 2 other colors. I have G14, and then I have YG21, and this is gonna be our green wrapping paper. So I have my G19, and again, I'm gonna start at the bottom of this bow and work up, and I'm gonna start at the knot and work out. I'm gonna color the bottom of this box. I'm gonna color where his arm and where this bow would leave a shadow, and then the corner of this package. Okay, so not a whole lot. Like, these are very fine little brush strokes. Now I have my G14, same thing. Trying to stay out of that highlight as much as possible so I still have room for a highlight. Just like that. And then my last color, this YG21, this is a very, very yellow green, but I wanted it to be nice and bright. I actually have Christmas bows that are this color. That like shocking lime green. I love them. But if you're not a fan of this color, you certainly don't have to use it. You can substitute it with any other color you want. All right. The last thing is I have this little gift tag here that is uncolored. So I'm just going to use the same colors as I did for this tree stand. So I have my E33. I'm going to come from the top and from the bottom. I have my E53. I'm going to come from the top. I'm going to go down the edges kind of frame it in. And then I have my E50. And I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm going to push those darker colors towards the outsides. And now you can take a multi-liner and write on there, you know, to you, or from Santa, or, you know, whatever it is that you want to write on there. But here's our sweet little mouse and his little Christmas tree. Yay, super cute. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to grab these gifts and this little Santa hat. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same red combination that I used for the presents. So I'm going to grab this R59, and I'm going to come up from the trim of the hat. And then I'm going to come down from that little puff ball. I feel like that would leave quite the shadow there. Okay, since there's not a lot to color here, I'm going to go ahead and color these packages at the same time. So I'm going to come up from the bottom of this ribbon. These are little tips and tricks that when you're making a bunch of Christmas cards, this will help you out. I'm going to come out from the knot. And then where this box turns on the front face, I'm going to add a little tiny shadow. That'll give you the illusion that the box is three-dimensional. And just follow the artist drawn lines of these bows. So where the loop is, I'm going to leave a little shadow there. Just like that. Okay? Super simple, no biggie. Then I'm going to go to my R29, and I'm going to push this shadow back towards itself. Again, I want to leave lots of room in my highlight. Same thing here. Since I'm only using 3 colors, and I'm going to push this shadow And these are such small spaces to work in, guys, that you don't have to worry about being absolutely perfect. It's such a teeny tiny space in the grand scheme of what's going on that I often find myself like just not fussing over what is going to be absolutely perfect. So with my R14, I'm working on blending these two together, the R29 and the R14. And again, I've left that little white spot in my highlight, so I'm just going to do one quick coat over it, so it makes it look like I've used more colors. I'm going to color from the center out on both of those. I'm going to color from the highlight back towards this. I'm going to flip my paper and do the same thing over here. And then from the center out. And there we go. We have a red ribbon and a red hat. Okay, now we're going to pull our green out again. So I have my G19, and I'm going to color this box green. And you don't have to color these boxes the same color I am. You can color them any colors you want. And this set also comes with a party hat. So if you want to color these, you know, way different colors and put a party hat on them, then that makes this set super versatile because he's not just for Christmas, he becomes a birthday mouse. And I love having versatility in my stamp sets, especially if you're one that doesn't have a ton of storage space. versatility in your stamp sets, it's definitely a must. And I usually use the same color to like go on to my next one. So I use them to kind of stair step off one another. So again, when you're trying to color cards in a hurry, or you have a lot of cards to make, or you're making ATCs or something like that, you can kind of employ this method a little bit of using your previous color to sort of stair step to the next one. So I colored the red hat with the red bow. Now I'm coloring the green present, and I'll color a green bow. This is my G14. Go back to my gift here. And notice I do multiple coats, multiple layers, all at the same time. I like doing that. It saves me a lot of time coming back and forth. Okay. This is YG21, coming back to this original gift here and adding this yellow color. Again, if you don't like lime green, this is not the color for you. Go ahead and swap it out with a different green. Okay. There we go. Okay. Now I'm actually going to pull my C markers. You could use your W markers for this, but I tend to gravitate towards my C's. These are just cooler tone. So I have C3. Whoops. And I'm going to make this a white package. So it's going to have white wrapping paper. So I'm just going to go same thing I did with like the red. And I'm just going to kind of trace the bottom of this box. And anywhere where there would be a little bit of a shadow, like from this bow. Okay, I don't want to go too crazy. And then I'm also, like I said, I'm going to stair step again. So I'm going to use this same marker to make a white bow or a gray bow. I think a lot of the times we think we're going to color white and it ends up being gray. And that's okay. We're just going to say we meant to do that, right? Okay. Then I have my C1, and again, you can use your W's, your N's, your C's, your T's, any ones that you have. And you can feel free to use the same technique using any of those gray markers. And honestly, if you wanted to do this like a super pale blue, you could use like your B00s or your BG double, triple, quadruple zeros, and that would work for you as well. So if you want to do, you know, super light pastel colored clothing or ribbons or anything like that, you can employ the same technique. And then I'm going to grab my colorless blender because again, this is going to be, you know, white paper, quote unquote. So I'm going to brush all of this back towards those shadows. I'm going to brush this all back into those shadows. So now we're just left with shadow at the corners. And that's what's going to make this look kind of white. Same thing on the bow. You're using the exact same method you used with the other markers. This last color is colorless. So you have to wrap your head around that. Okay? I'll show you how I'm going to finish that off in just a minute. We're going to add some little embellishments to it, okay? So you can color more gifts, you can color less gifts, you can color a whole bunch of gifts, you can color very few gifts. It's totally up to you what you want to do with this. I think that this white bow on this present would look really cute with a red gift. So I'm going to pull my red markers back out and make this a little red Christmas gift. Some red wrapping paper. And then I'm going to show you some fun little things that you can do with these. And you can make these into tags and bags and, you know, all kinds of little things that your imagination is the limit. So there's definitely lots of things that you can do with this stamp set. It's quite versatile indeed. Okay. R29. And it's just the same method over and over and over again for coloring these gifts, no matter what colors you use. You could even stamp this on pattern paper and paper piece these. That would be super adorable as well. All right. So now what we're gonna do is I have a white jelly roll pin, if I can reach it, and then I have a silver, like glittery jelly roll pin. So my glittery one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add like little snowflake type stars. And make this package all glittery and fun. See how cute is that? Then with my white jelly roll pin, I think I'm gonna add little white spots. This pin is not very happy as of lately. So I'm gonna add little white polka dots. And you can feel free to add, you know, any little patterns that you want to these papers. Like I said, your imagination is the limit on that. And then on this red one, I actually think I'm going to take my multi-liner and I'm going to add black polka dots. Like little ones. How cute is that? And then you can even come back in with your glitter pen and make that glittery. I tap my finger over the top of it so that there's not perfect lines from the glitter pen, because it is a roller ball pen, so it'll leave lines. So if you tap your finger over the top of it, it will blur those lines while it's still wet, okay? Now the last thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna use my C markers again, and I'm just gonna add little kind of dash marks here, little like moon shapes. And we're gonna make this Santa hat fuzzy. Same on the little puff ball here. Just like that. Then I'm going to use my C1. That was my C3, just in case I didn't say that. I can't remember if I did now or not. And I'm going to go over these lines. And this just adds a little texture to the fuzz on the Santa hat. And then I'm going to take my colorless blender and I'm going to coat all of it. Just be careful not to hit the red, because if you pick up the red, then your Santa hat fuzz will turn into pink fuzz. Okay. And then I'm also going to take that same white jelly roll pin and I'm going to add little crescent shapes with that as well. And now you have a little fuzzy Santa hat to go along with your little mouse too. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this class. It was kind of a fast one. So again, feel free to, pause, rewind, go back, make yourself comfortable with coloring. You're going to want to color this again and again and again and make all of your Christmas cards out of these cute little, this mouse and tree and his little hat and all of that stuff. So again, this is what my card looks like. I took that little hat and I put it up on Sweet Pops, and the little gifts I put up on Sweet Pops so that you had lots of dimension to your card and all of that. So I hope you really enjoyed this class. I hope you guys all have a very Merry Christmas and a super Happy New Year. Thank you so much for being a part of Sweet Sentiment. I really appreciate you all. I'm just so blessed and thankful. So have a wonderful holiday season, and I'll see you guys all next year. Toodles!